My wife of 28 years backstabbed me, so I drove her insane and meticulously ruined her life. My wife had no clue that I knew about her ongoing affair, so the very first thing I did was devise the plan that would make her life hell on earth. Simply confronting her and divorcing her was way too simple. I needed to ruin her. My first step was gathering evidence of the affair, and I did this by using the app that allowed me to spy on her texts. I spied on her texts pretty much every night, screenshotting every conversation between her and her affair partner. They were talking like they were in a full-blown relationship, slow, doy, romantic stuff, provocative pictures, a whole bag. Around this time, I moved on to the making her life hell phase of my plan. I started acting extremely cold towards her, and this made her paranoid. She'd ask me if I was doing okay all the time, but I'd brush her off. She'd try talk to me and get me to open up, but I avoided her. I could tell this took a huge toll on her mentally, but I was only getting started. I also began doing things out of the ordinary. I start going out at odd times and coming home extra late from work in her presence. I was on my phone a lot more than usual, and when she asked, "What are you up to?" I simply said, "Just stuff," and put my phone away. I also changed my login info on everything, so she couldn't access any of my stuff around. This time, I clued my best friend AZ in on my plan, as well as telling my older sister and two more of my closest friends, Joey and Nah, what was going on. Make note of Nah. She comes into play down the road. About 1 month of acting cold towards my wife is all it took for her to completely lose her marbles. She started texting and calling me a lot more frequently now, asking me if I'm going to be home, asking when am I coming home, trying to initiate things in the bedroom, asking if I'm okay daily. The works. I can see the seed planted in her head the month prior is starting to sprout, especially in her communication with her affair partner. Let's call him Dave. She's confiding in him, her doubt and confusion. And I'm seeing this once again, thanks to the app. She's telling him that I'm getting cold and distant in the interim of these interactions with Dave. She suggests that maybe they should stop meeting up at our house because she has no idea if I'd just show up. Dave asks her in that specific communication if she worried about me potentially cheating on her, which actually ticked her off. I can't even begin to describe the level of joy and how many laughs I got out of reading that exchange. My cheating wife arguing with her affair partner over if she's mad her husband could be cheating on her. Oh, the irony. Now bear in mind, I'm not hooking up with anyone when I leave. I'm usually at AIE playing video games. We'll fast forward now, another 4 months. 4 long months of keeping my mouth shut, gathering evidence and driving my wife mad by acting cold and distant. She had started nearly slipping into psychosis, and I was relishing in it. I've been in my faux affair for 5 months now, and it's been 5 months since I even touched her. No hugs, no kisses, no initiation of intimacy. Not like she needed it though. She was still sleeping with Dave just at his place or at motels, and then on one random day it all just hit the fan. She called me at work begging me to come straight home because she had something important to tell me. I actually believed she was going to come clean about her infidelity, but she of course didn't. Instead, I got home to her asking me if I was unhappy with her. She cites the fact that I've been spending way too much time away from home. I don't show her affection anymore, and our bedroom life has completely died. She tells me she's worried I'm pushing her away, and then came the punchline. She asked if I was cheating on her. I can't even lie. I fell on the floor laughing hysterically, and when I say hysterically, I mean Joker laughing gas. Hysterical on the surface. It looked like it was me laughing off the notion of being unfaithful, but it was of course actually me laughing at the sheer irony of what was happening in front of my eyes. I'm tearing up, pounding on the floor in complete hysterics for a good 2 minutes before I compose myself enough to answer. I sit up and look her in the eyes for the first time in months, shaking my head, but I don't give her an answer. I stand up, brush myself off, kiss the top of her head, and go about settling in for the night. I could hear the start to cry as I walked off, but I didn't care later that night. As I'm in my office, I decide, you know what? Given the brevity of what happened, I wanted to see what she was telling him. So I fire up the app, and sure enough, they're actually texting in real time. She tells Dave, "I know he's cheating on me. I asked him tonight and he literally laughed in my face. He fell on the floor and laughed for like 5 minutes. He doesn't even care how I feel anymore. I don't know how or why, but he's gone. I know I've lost him. This is karma. I know it." The smile I had on my face reading that must have resembled the Cheshire cat she was breaking. Dave attempted to console her, saying that if I cared enough for her, she wouldn't have had to come to him to give her what I wasn't giving her. But the tone of her responses told me she was having doubts about him now. Now, during all of this, I was also exacting yet another part of my plan for payback. This part involved getting all of my affairs in order financially. You see, not too long ago, I had met with a family attorney to get the ball rolling on divorce paper. With the mountain of evidence I'd piled up to that point, the overwhelming amount of proof I'd gathered displaying Sue's infidelity, pretty much so LFI that I could nail her to the wall in a divorce case, my lawyer instructed me to get all of my financials in order in preparation for whatever division of assets might come as a result. I went one better than that, though secretly pulling all of my money out of our joint account and putting it in my personal account. I also started shopping around for an apartment as part of this phase. So about a month goes by after the incident of me dropping to the floor and laughing, and I've yet to change my behavior towards my wife. In fact, I've ramped it up, and if she wasn't psychotic, yes, she sure is. Now, this is the time is where my friend Nah comes into play for context. Nah and my wife have never been what you call clothes. I met Nah freshman year of high school, 2 years before I met my wife. Even way back then, my wife has seen Nah as a threat, as she's my closest female friend. There's always been an implied, I don't trust her from my wife regarding Nah. Anyway, one night, Nah, Joey and I gathered at Joey's house for dinner and drinks. Well, being the evil mastermind she is, comes up with an evil idea to trigger my wife. She suggested we take some photos in the same vein of the photos I discovered of my wife and Dave months prior and post them to my Facebook, and that's just what we did. It wasn't until 2 days later that Sue got wind of it. As I'm guessing a few friends noticed my updates and saw how uncomfortably close I was with, and this really messed her mind up because she still believed I was cheating. That same night she tried to scold me for being so. Hand in the pictures, I saw this as a golden opportunity to deliver the lead jab for my knockout blow. I said, "So what about the pics with you and Dave from last year? He was pretty handsy in them, but did you see me get bent out of shape over it? She looked like a deer in headlights." It was the first time I even mentioned the dude's name throughout all of this. The hamster wheel in her head started reeling in real time as she tried to explain away those pics and explain away she did. He's that way with everyone. He's just a really friendly guy. I can see how it looks, but there's nothing there. I'm sorry if those PS hurt you, I'll delete them. No, the PS aren't what hurt me. The year you've been sleeping with the dude whilst lying to me that you're working extra hours and hanging with friends is what hurt me. But vengeance is a dish best served cold. From that night, my wife was being extra specially clingy and attentive to me. She'd tread to initiate affection and intimacy with me, and I'd stonewall her at every chance. All the while, I'm still archiving everything she's saying to Dave. Mind you, by this point, I'd long since gone numb. Any desire I might have had to save my marriage was dead. I'd checked out the day I enacted the first phase of my plan. She's fighting in him that I've gotten worse, that she doesn't know what to do, and she feels like I absolutely hate her. I do. Then comes the bombshell. She says she can't see him anymore. The guilt is too much for her, and she feels like karma is suffocating her. She can't risk losing me. She says that she loves Dave deeply, but she is still in love with me, and she has to save her marry age before she loses me. No, my dear, you're many months too late for that. Dave loose. Is it saying such lovely things as he doesn't love you the way I love you, and you're making a mistake? You can't just throw me away like this. That text chain would be the last they'd have for a while throughout the remainder of November into December. My wife is stuck in limbo. She's trying to gauge where my headspace is and is still unable to tell if I'm actually being unfaithful. Meanwhile, Dave is steadily blowing her phone up daily, but she's not responding to him. I'd see her check her phone often, then quickly put it away. Meanwhile, the financial phase of the plan was now officially complete. The divorce papers were done. I'd found a studio apartment near me and signed a 2-year lease on it. All of my money was in my personal account. So we're now at Thanksgiving 8 months after. After this all started, I decided I was ready to throw my haymaker. My 22-year-old son and his girlfriend were hosting a small gathering of our immediate families. So them, the girlfriend's parents, myself, my wife, and our 17-year-old son, all present. As I had to keep up appearances of nothing being wrong between my wife and I initiated affection with her several times that evening, kisses on the cheek, cute little hugs, wrapping my arms around her shoulders from behind. The gestures didn't go unnoticed by her as she read in it. Bear in mind, this was the worst time I touched this woman since I kissed at the top of her head the night she confronted me in October. So just about a month and a half, I felt repulsed doing it. But I had to. I couldn't risk the plan. And me being distant to her in the face of my boys, my oldest's girlfriend and her parents would set off alarms. So my youngest decides he wants to stay over with his big bro for the night. So my wife and I head home on the drive home. She thanks me for being so good to her and says, "I don't know what you're going through, baby, but I'm here for you." I had to hold off busting out in maniacal laughter again and responded saying, "I know, I just need time." So for the first time realistically since last year we had sex that night, I figured, screw it with what I'm about to do. May as well get some action before I delete her from my existence after we were done. I just got up, show her it, and went to sleep in my office to her confusion. Though I used to rub her first time 2 damn decades I did. She was definitely perplexed by it, but she didn't ask questions. I woke up the next day and checked my handy dandy spy app, and for the first time in weeks, she responded to Dave. Dude went full Nola. He professed his love for her, said she was wasting her time, trying to rekindle a flame in me that died, that she'd been in a prison with me for 28 years and deserved to experience the love and affection of a man who would cherish her mind. This dude is 27 years old, 5 years older than our oldest son. She responded saying pretty much the same thing she said when last they talked, that she loves him and enjoyed their time together, but she can't lose me. I'm still the love of her life, but she'll always have a place for him in her heart, that they can still be friends if he chooses, but the physical relationship between them is over. He begged her to see him one last time that week, and yeah, you guessed it, she said, yes, one more for the road, right? Who am I to say anything? That's what I did to her the previous night. Of course I added all of that to the archive I'd compiled. December 4th is when the final phase of Operation Shinobi Ghost started. The divorce papers were in hand. My new place or residence was set up. Now I had to slowly start moving my stuff out of the house, but first I had to break the news to my boys. I called my oldest to the house that Friday night, had them join me in my office, and laid everything on that table, not the specifics, but that their mother had been cheating on me for a while, and I was going to be filing for divorce soon. My 17-year-old was especially shaken up by this because he himself had recently experienced his first taste of infidelity. Yep, his first girlfriend had cheated on him just 4 months prior. Seeing his heart broken a second time at the idea that his own mother was capable of doing this hit him hard. My oldest took it a lot better and suggested taking his brother in to live with him until this blows over, to which I agreed. We packed up some of his stuff, and he asked me if I was going to be okay. I told him yes. Son, I'm going to be all right, and so are you. We're going to be all right, I promise. And then they were off. The hard hardest part was now over, and it was now time to arm the nukes over the next few weeks. Day by day, my best friend AZ would help me get a little of my most sensitive stuff out of the house. I gave him a list of all of the definite stuff to grab while my wife and I were at work and left him the spare key. This was all stuff my wife wouldn't notice was missing unless you told her it was gone. I'd also gotten a new phone and phone number and told everyone who needed to know AZ Joey. Nah, my boys, big sis, and my mother my new contact info. Meanwhile, I'm keeping up the ruse with my wife and she's none the wiser, trickling bits and pieces of affection to her just to keep her off of the trail while she's still in contact with Dave, not to the extent that they'd been prior, but there's still an emotional thing happening. The fog is faint, but it's still there. All the while, I gather everything, and I do mean everything. Every bit of data I've archived since I started the plan, call logs, texts, PCKs, emails, everything, and start making printouts, and I cataloged everything in order from the beginning of the affair until that last bit. 2 weeks ago, I then put each of the 14 binders was detailing her infidelity individually in a box and gift wrapped, each addressing them to various people. My mother, her parents, her 2 sisters, her brother, her HR department. Did I forget to mention Dave works for the same company, and there's an expressed rule against intercompany relationships because of the nature of what she does. Several of her friends, Dave and Dave's parents, I lugged all of those to the post office and shipped them all out. December 16th estimated for delivery, December 22nd, 24th. Perfect. So we're now at Christmas Eve. Sue comes home around the usual time. No idea if she'd seen Dave. I'd stow tracking her on the app on the 18th figure. I'd gotten all the mileage I needed from it. As per usual, she showers, hangs out with me a bit, tries to show me love and affection, and I reciprocate, wanting to make the final blow as painful as possible. It was all upon me. At long last, the nuke I'd been arming for the majority of this year was finally about to be launched in the middle of the night. I woke up and wrapped up one of the 3 remaining binders with the divorce papers taped to the inside cover and set it on my side of the bed with a note that said Merry Christmas on it next to it. I left my old phone and the business card of my lawyer. I packed up the remainder of my most needed items, enough to fill 2 backpacks, and I left the home that I spent 23 years in for the last time that my friend's was 1 week ago. To my wife, I am completely off the grid. She's blocked on Facebook but still hasn't blocked me for some reason, so I'm keeping tabs on the fallout. It's absolutely glorious. My packages have reached everyone I sent them out to, and my soon-to-be ex-wife is getting crucified. Her youngest sister completely dressed her down. Both of her parents have condemned her. My mom absolutely destroyed her. She's been frantically trying to find out if anyone knows where I am, but those that do aren't saying a word all over her feed. She's desperately trying to reach me because I'm guessing she knows I'm likely looking, but I'm not saying a word to her without my lawyer present. That'll be the next time I share oxygen with her. She's got no way of spinning the narrative to paint me as the bad guy because I've exposed her to everyone who matters to her, and from what a mutual friend who works in the same company as her, she and Dave apparently are being put on administrative leave as of tomorrow, so chances are she'll be going into 2021 unemployed. As for the final 2 binders, well, one has been turned over to my lawyer as my final bit of evidence for my impending divorce, and the last one I put in my storage unit to be burned in Joey's fire pit when the divorce is final update. I have spent the last 2 weeks watching my soon-to-be ex-wife completely lose it on social media, and this past Wednesday, I met her face-to-face for the first time since ghosting her in my lawyer's office. She and her lawyer were present. She looked like crap. Barely holding it together, her lawyer actually presented an offer for terms of reconciliation, but I shot them down almost as soon as she finished listing the details of the request. Long story short, we agreed to a legal separation leading to an uncontested divorce. The only revision is that I will pay her $653 a month of temporary spousal support to cover the cost of utilities until she's gainfully employed again. Yep, she got fired up to a year after the finalization. So after the meeting, my lawyer gave me some final words before telling me he'll be in touch to update me on the progress of the filing back out on the street. My soon-to-be ex-wife chases me down and asks, can we talk? I figured I'd give her at least that she held it together fairly well in the meeting, but outside let the waterworks flow, saying how sorry she was and how she never meant it to go as far as it did. She says she never expected to fall in love with Dave, but knew when she thought I was cheating how wrong it was to betray her own husband. In such a way, she asked if I could ever find it in my heart to forgive me, and that maybe in a few years we could try to start over, that she can't imagine what her life is going to be without me. I tell her to start imagining it soon, because this will be the last time I ever speak to or see her. I tell her that our 17-year-old is almost a man and old enough to make his own choices as to his own future. I say that I gave her half of my life and every ounce of love I had unconditionally, and she in her own words fell in love with another man, that there is absolutely no chance of me ever forgiving her, that all of the love I had for her was slowly killed all of those months that she confided and professed her love to Dave, rather than coming to me and telling me she had any form of issue with how things were going with us. I told her I love Dee, who she once was, but I hate who stands before me, and that if I never see her again, it'll be too soon. I finished by telling her I didn't regret the 28 years I spent being her husband. I regretted that in 28 years, she decided the easy way out was the better option, and that for 23 years I thought she was mine, but it turned out it was just my turn. Later that night, her father called me and apologized. He praised me for always being a good man to his daughter, and tells me he's ashamed of her and that he raised her better than what she did. After that call, I went on FB FB and symbolically changed my relationship status to divorced life is very strange as of now, but at least me and Na are sleeping together, so that's a positive.